This journey started in the 60s, and I have fished from Alaska to Florida, hunted the Arctic for caribou, and combed the coastlines of Kodiak and the Aleutian Islands in search of meaning and purpose. These excursions exemplify a deeper understanding of success beyond that of just catching fish or bagging big game. They are about the chase and learning who you are. They are about exploring, appreciating, and respecting the vast expanses of our nation's forests, lakes, streams, rivers, and oceans, and finding our place in the universe. My name is Gene Quinney. These are my stories, this is my life, and these are my adventures. So my wife says, why don't you go down the river and fish down there? So that's what I'm gonna do. The plan is now go down to a buddy's property and maybe try to catch a steelhead. I'm gonna take the golf cart and we are going to go down there and toss a spinner around, some plugs, see if we can't find a steelhead. Look at that wind whipping right there. It's not gonna be so bad on the bank, but let me tell you something. In the boat blowing around like that, oh, look at that. That is crazy. It's a windstorm, but that's okay. Fish don't care. Okay, let's see. No, it's got a, I got this set up for drifting a bead. And this one here, I think it's set up for drifting. It's got a rubber worm on it. Wow, I can hear that wind blowing out there like crazy. Whoa, check it out. I'm sure glad I decided not to go out on the boat in that. Okay. So we've got 3 rods here. Now let me grab this tackle box and the net. Throw the net in here. Wow, look at here. The river. The wind. I think I'm going to park over here. Okay, I think that'll do it. Should be able to use this thing to block the wind if it gets too bad too. Well, I didn't lose any equipment. It's always a good thing not to lose equipment. Oh man. Okay, whoa. Oh, it just broke my mirror. Ha ha. Oh my gosh. Look at that. The wind just whipped the door open and broke my mirror. Huh. Wow. Okay. Well, shoot. Oh, now the other door's gonna whip open. I gotta turn this thing around. Okay, got the cart turned around. Oh my gosh. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is something simple, like just toss around a spinner. Let me see here. Should have an assortment of spinners in there. Let's see what we have. They said it was going to be about a 96% chance of rain. These are ones that I've had forever, and I've caught a lot of fish on these things. Look at that wind blowing. That's crazy. Yeah, it's super sharp. I can feel it right there sticking. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and make 40 or 50,000 casts. I believe this rod is set up with probably 10-pound test. High vis line. Nice slow retrieve. Holy moly, that wind makes things interesting, doesn't it? Oh, you know what I think I'll do? Better get prepared just in case I do catch a fish. So let me get this net ready. The good thing I discovered about this Ninja net is that in a situation like this, it can be easily clipped onto anything. Let me find something for it to clip on. There we go. And so the net is just hanging there on my golf cart now. And then when I need it, all I have to do is just rip the handle off here like this. It'll pop right open. And it's right there. It doesn't necessarily have to hang off of your waist. Make sure our drag is set right. I don't know how you guys feel about treble hooks, single C-wash or barbless. But to be totally honest with you, I actually prefer the single Si-wash hook. Simply because trebles tend to come dislodged from the fish's mouth, especially at steelhead. They do a lot of damage, you know, especially to trout. And for the most part, if a hook is in a fish properly, and it's a good sharp hook, you don't really need to have a barb. I know it's like an extra, you know, safety measure to make sure the hook doesn't come out. And a lot of times, you know, it is there to make sure the hook doesn't come out. But if you fight a fish properly and you keep tension on the line and you keep the angle correct when you're fighting the fish, and don't allow slack or him to run to you or away from you with the rod in the wrong direction where you don't have the tension on the line, a barbless hook is going to work just fine. It just means that you, as the angler, regardless of the fish that you're going to, you know, land, is doing a better job of fighting the fish. And for me, especially if I'm fishing a place where I plan on releasing fish or not damaging them, you know, to where you increase their mortality rate, I'm not going to use treble hooks. That's why in a lot of places that I fish, especially if it's a trout, like a mountain lake or a mountain creek or a stream someplace, you know, where you don't get any plants and you don't have a lot of repopulation by the natural numbers of fish that are inhabiting that particular body of water, I don't use treble hooks, because if you catch one, you're not going to be able to release it without it being harmed 9 times out of 10. And especially worms. If you use worms or live bait in a place like that, you know, the fish is just going to suck it right down. It's most likely going to kill it. And I don't want to, the only place that I'll really eat trout is if it comes from the river. Cold water trout I'll eat, but planters, I'm generally, you know, whether it's a lake or even a mountain lake where the water is relatively cold, I'm not going to kill those fish. I don't want to kill those fish. Not just for me to eat, especially not just to make a video. If I'm gonna fish a high mountain lake or a creek somewhere, I'm gonna fly fish it. I'm gonna try to do as little damage to the fish population of those areas as possible. That's just me. Now you'll see me, you know, kill a lot of fish, you know, because it'll be in the ocean where the salmon are. Those are obviously awesome to eat, or it'll be kokanee, maybe a trout, you know, in this cold water body here, or, you know, a halibut or any of those other ones that are there to eat for food. And you could argue that all fish are there to eat for food, but there's just some places where I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna try to make as little impact as possible. Sometimes all it takes is moving a few feet. Oh, look at that, a corky. Oh, nice one. I'm sure my buddy won't mind. My goodness. I'm certainly glad. I am really glad I didn't decide to actually go on the lake today. But I mean, it's always a fun trip, right? It's not necessarily about, it's not the destination. Life isn't about the destination. Life is about the journey. Because if you think about it, you know, you're born and then you die. So the journey is in between life and death. You know, I have fished this spot on the river right here since I was a kid. And so over 50, 55 years. And when my dad got to the point where he couldn't fish anymore, couldn't fly fish, couldn't walk, couldn't get in and out of the boat, this is where he would come. He would come down here, he'd walk down here. And of course, the owner of the property back then was his good friend. And so he would just walk down here and fish and catch fish right here, especially when the coho were running. I think I've got a couple of pictures of him actually with fish in this spot. Yeah, there they are. That's my dad. He was a heck of a man. Was born in 1929. And so, you know, it was the depressed economy at that time. They struggled, you know, to make ends meet, literally. Not like today. You know, today we think we're struggling when we can't buy the latest iPhone, you know, or we don't have a brand new car, or we don't have a, you know, an 80-inch TV. Then we think we're struggling. No, back then they struggled, you know, putting food on the table, literally putting food on the table. He used to tell me stories about how him and his brother would go out and shoot squirrels and catch birds, starlings, for dinner. And he used to tell me all the different ways that they'd set traps for starlings. But yeah, that was a different time. You know, it made tough men. What's the saying? How's that go? Hard times make tough men. Okay, how's it go? Hard times make tough men. Tough men make easy times. Easy times make soft men. Soft men make hard times. He grew up at a time, you know, where the men were tough. You had to be to survive, literally to survive. Today we're soft. We get cold. You know, we get tired. You know, we take a pill for everything. No, they toughed it out. Sure, they didn't live as long, they didn't live as comfortably as we do, but they lived a lot freer. Well, even when I was growing up, things were a lot different. In my new intro that I have, I hope you guys don't mind the intro. You know, I made that intro a few videos ago, but that picture of me with the caribou, that was the first caribou I ever shot. and I was living in Port Heiden, and that was the most freedom that I've ever felt in my entire life. And I've been around for a while. I went up there to spend the summer with my sister and her husband. And when I got off the plane there at Port Heiden, we jumped in his little Baja VW bug. It was like a 1972, 1968, something like that bug, and went to the house that was on the beach. And the first thing that he did was he showed me an ATC 90 Honda that was going to be mine for the summer. And we walked into the house. He handed me a 357 mag and opened up a kitchen drawer, and it was a huge drawer, you know, and it was full of 357 Magnum rounds. And he said, "Have fun." And boy, did I. That was, I mean, Port Heiden at that time, there was probably, what I remember, this was, of course, 1970, 75, 76, somewhere around there. There was an airport, no fire department, no police station, no authorities within 200 miles. Had to get there by plane. If you had a problem, you know, and you had an emergency, you were shit out of luck. You had to get your supplies every 6 months by ship or plane if you wanted to pay for it to come in, if they could get in. But that 3 or 4 months in Port Heiden was absolutely incredible. I rode that three-wheeler around everywhere in the tundra and chased brown bears on the beach. They ran like crazy because they were afraid of me. They were afraid of the machine, probably, not me, but they didn't mess with me. And oh gosh, we ate ptarmigan. I shot ptarmigan. We ate ptarmigan. Got caribou. There was this one time when me and my brother-in-law were sighting in our rifles on the side of this old army bunker, and we were out there for like 20 minutes shooting, sighting our rifles in, and a herd of about 7 caribou came walking right by. They were oblivious to everything, so we pounded out a couple of bulls and threw them in the back of his bug, or actually on the hood of his bug, and took those back to the house. But yeah, that was, you could virtually do anything you wanted there. There was one time, let me change the lure and I'll tell you the story. Okay, I changed rods. What I have here now is the plunking rod that I used in that one video I made when I was plunking in front of my property. But it's the same plunking gear that I have here, and looks like a 1 ounce cannonball. And so I'm gonna plunk right here for a minute or two, and I'll get back to that story. I'll get in there with it. Man, that wind. What the heck? That's not gonna work. What are you doing, Gene? Okay. Oh, there we go. This ought to be fun getting out of here if I catch a fish. Okay. If I get a fish that hits that, make sure the drag is set right. So if a fish does hit it, and I can tighten it up a little bit by turning the wheel. There we go. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was telling you a story. So Port Heiden is out on the Aleutian Peninsula, and the house that we lived in at the time was right on the beach. And the only entertainment we had were, you know, cards, board games. There was no TV, there was no radio, except for one radio station, and it was a Russian station, and so we listened to it. What else did you gonna do? Didn't understand a thing they were saying. So one night, me and my sister were up playing cards. My brother-in-law was in bed because he had to get up and go to work. He was a electronic technician with AT&T, and what he did was he served all their remote telecommunication sites, and that's why I was there just visiting them for the summer. I went all over the place in Alaska, you know, because he was at different locations, so every summer I'd go up there as a kid. So anyway, we're playing cards, and we look over, and of course it's not dark. It's kind of twilight because it didn't get dark at that time during the summertime. And a brown bear, a grizzly bear, was looking in the window, in the kitchen window, and he had his hands up on the windowsill like this, kind of peering up over the top. And my sister freaked out, went in there and woke her husband up, and he got out and he jacked a couple rounds into his .308, shot off 3 rounds in the air, and you could see the entire village come to life. I mean, lights started coming on everywhere. It was a common thing to do. You know, you warned your neighbors that there was a bear in town. And so, you know, 3-wheelers, motorcycles, everything started firing up, and everybody started running around, you know, trying to find this bear and chasing this bear out of town. It was so cool. There was like, at that time, there was probably, there was probably 80 people, I think. 80 people in the whole place. All Aleutian Indians, natives, and probably 12 or 14, you know, white people. God, that wind is crazy. But that was a wild time. We also went caribou hunting, and there was like 4 of us in a small bush plane, and you can't hunt. You never could, as long as I can remember. You can't hunt on the same day you fly. So we flew in, landed on this beach, and the beach was actually a pretty steep beach. You know, a lot of beaches, you know, are long and tapered. This was a steep beach, and that bush pilot, he had that plane flying sideways like this into the wind, and, you know, compensating for the curvature of the beach. That was exciting. And anyway, we get down there, we get our stuff unloaded into this little cabin, and I want to go fishing. So I found this little creek that was feeding through the tundra into the ocean, and it was full of Arctic grayling. I mean, just you didn't have to throw anything in there. All you needed was a bare hook. If it shined or glistened at all, you were catching them. So I learned that because I was putting different things on, and they were hitting everything. So I took just a regular hook, chrome hook, and tossed it in there, and bam, it was catching these things. It must have been stacked up in there. And I hear this rumbling. I thought it was like an earthquake or something. And so I look off in the distance, and I see this cloud. And it was a weird cloud. It wasn't a cloud coming down from the sky. It was a cloud rising from the ground. And I look off into the distance. It's getting closer and closer and closer to me. And what it was a herd of thousands of caribou. And it was, I'm not kidding you, it was like the scene in Dances with Wolves when he was out there with Tatonka. And these caribou were just crashing by me. They were getting closer and closer and closer. Luckily, they stayed off in far enough a distance where I could see them really well, and the dust was in my face. The sound was just incredible. The ground was shaking and rumbling. And of course, you know, I couldn't do anything about it. It says, you know, you can't hunt on the same day, and I didn't have my rifle with me anyway. But man, it was, and back then, you didn't have cameras. Today, everybody has a camera. You know, there would have been 1,000 pictures, you know, videos and everything of me with this herd of caribou in the background. But all it is a memory, and now it's shared on YouTube. So everybody can share and experience what I experienced back then. It was just simply incredible. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever had happen to me when it comes to hunting and fishing and being in the outdoors. How you doing there, buddy?
Like a winter,
hey, babe.
Spring storm. Hello?
Hey, come on in.
It's really windy out.
That's terrible.
Well, it is spring.
Oh my gosh. Oh, he's tied up in the... Here, hold on to this. He's all tied up in the line. Oh my gosh, it's around his neck.
Oh my god.
How the heck did he do that?
Well, excitement.
Oh man. Ruger. Dude, what's up? He had that line wrapped around his neck. Like a noose. Now my wife has joined us. And the dog, Ruger.
It was a good walk. Windy, but
man, the wind is blowing like crazy.
It's terrible.
Oh, when I first got down here, I had it parked the other direction, and the wind grabbed the door and swung it open and busted off the mirror.
Oh no!
Yeah, so the mirror's down there.
Oh
It
god.
didn't do any good up there anyway.
Yeah, I know.
You
Not
can't-
with these on.
Neither one of them. Yeah, but the door's on. You can't even use them. They're useless. Okay, so I've got the rod now, just kind of precariously perched here. Okay, let's get out of here. See if we can do something different. Okay, so what I have on here now is a Blue Fox number 5 single side wash barbless hook. Look at that's just from the wind blowing. Okay. Oh. Ready to get out of this wind?
It's terrible.
See you later, Cowlitz. For now. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our other videos where you'll join us on the ocean catching kings and silver salmon, lakes catching kokanee trout and landlocked coho. We'll also be working our riverfront homestead and harvesting venison. Stay tuned for more fishing and hunting and outdoor adventure videos. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button so you get notifications of new uploads. Thank you for watching.